Here are just a few people that, according to the Horry County Public Index, have been arrested for multiple DUIs. For many, driving under the influence is not something we think about. That is, until it affects us.
Before pulling out of the parking lot, I texted my fiance and told her that I was on the way home. And the next thing I remember, I just woke up in the hospital.
Almost exactly 1 year ago, David was coming home from work when he was hit head-on by a drunk driver who was driving on the wrong side of the road. His injuries were severe.
I shattered both the bones in my left arm, broke my femur. It actually decapitated my kneecap, and that was actually in the passenger side floorboard.
Doctors were unsure if David would make it through the night. Then they did not know if he would be able to keep his leg. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks, but David says he had a special someone he wanted to make it home to be with on Christmas.
That was actually what I was fighting for, because my daughter was only 2 months old at the time. And so I was trying to just get home for her and to be with my family.
David's father, Johnny Shelton, says it was one of the hardest moments of his life. He says he remembers sitting with David's daughter, Peyton, on the night it happened, and not knowing if he would see his son again, but he was lucky.
I still have my son. My wife and I still have our son. A lot of folks in our situation only have a grave marker with their child's name, their loved one's name.
Johnny says one of the issues is there's no consistency in how DUI laws are applied. So I asked Horry County Assistant Solicitor Austin Thomas why it is so difficult to convict those accused of driving under the influence. Thomas says because of new laws, there is no history of past cases to rely on.
No guidance yet from the appellate courts, so different judges are going to interpret the law different ways until there is that guidance.
He says that DUI statutes are one of the most complex. Police officers have to follow strict guidelines while performing an arrest. Thomas says even if the person is obviously intoxicated, if one thing is done incorrectly by the officer, that's all it takes.
For not following the statutory requirements would be dismissal of the case.
Dismissal of the case, not just a reduced sentence, an entire dismissal, meaning that person who was originally charged with driving under the influence is back on the road without any charges. Here are the DUI offenders from earlier in this report, and here are their charges. Some of the faces you may even recognize. Many arrested for their third DUI offense. And when you consider how hard Thomas says it is for DUI cases to stick, they could have been charged for other incidents that were dismissed. However, some believe it's actually the opposite.
There are many, many people arrested for DUI that were not drinking, let alone being impaired.
Stuart Axelrod is an attorney in Myrtle Beach. Many of the people he represents come to him facing DUI charges. Axelrod says that a lot of the time, officers are saving lives by removing intoxicated or inebriated drivers from the streets. But he says that's not always the case.
If you take a field sobriety test, you will usually go to jail.
He says that the tests are made to fail by the way they are designed. He says some DUI offenses on people's records may not even be valid. But in the end, it does not matter whether you're a repeat DUI offender or you just had too much to drink. The person who hit David had no previous DUI convictions. All it takes is one time.
One time, you're going to pull the trigger. One time, and all of a sudden the world, somebody's world, your world or somebody else's world is going to be turned upside down.
It's just something I struggle with every day now. I wake up still feeling sore. It just turned everyday activities or everyday things that I have to do that I used to do before with no problem. Everything now just about is a struggle. It's hard for me to pick up my daughter on my own just because she's getting bigger and I can't pick up that much with my arm.
David said he had two options: to sit and feel sorry for himself or get up and do something. He said he had to get up. He had a family depending on him. He will have to continue to have surgeries for the rest of his life, but he's one of the lucky ones who gets a life. Many aren't as lucky, and from something that could be easily fixed by calling a friend or shelling a few dollars out for a taxi.